Alrighty, the card is down. We're getting started. If I know feels very spontaneous, and if anyone is tuning in, hello, hello. I'm sitting with two fabulous ladies today. As you can see on the screen, it's me. It's Miss Paulina Ganucheau.
Ganucheau.
Ganucheau. Sorry. Oh my gosh. We went over it and I still messed it up. I'm so sorry.
I think Amy has my thing, because I honestly, that's what would have happened to me on a live stream for sure. 100%.
Paulina Ganucheau.
Show.
I am. You know what? Let me put a note. Now show. Show.
I'm telling you, don't look at her name when you say it. We maybe are diagnosing you in real time, Amy.
Oh my gosh!
And welcome to my hell. It's worse for you for the kind of job you do, but it's not great for anyone. I got to be honest.
Oh my gosh!
Good luck.
Hopefully I'll learn. But the other voice you're hearing is Miss Kelly Thompson. Kelly and Paulina are working on our Powerpuff series that is debuting this July. Howdy there, Gabriel. Thank you for joining us. And so, yeah, we're talking about all things Powerpuff today. Like I was telling the ladies, we don't have the books in yet, so I'm like, let me just decorate myself. So, yeah, the Powerpuff Girls mean a lot to me. They came on when I was very young, and there was immediately a connection there. They were my first superheroes.
Oh wow, that's great.
So they've led me on to where I am now, being able to see the heroes now on screen, whether it's through Marvel or DC. It really started here. It really started here. So yeah. I was so excited to get the opportunity to talk to both of you ladies. I'm so grateful that you're both here. So I guess my first basic question, I told you my connection with the girls. How about to the both of you? What's your connection with the Powerpuff Girls?
Paulina, why don't you go first?
I'll go first, sure. Similarly, I grew up with them. I was 10 years old when the show aired, so I was right smack in the middle of the target demographic. And I have a younger sister, and we both were just fully obsessed. We had t-shirts, we had toys, I don't know if anyone remembers Oikaki boards. It's like this online art posting system from a million years ago, but we specifically joined a Powerpuff Girl Oikaki board where all we did was draw Powerpuff Girls together. Oh, yes. So to say I'm a fan is to say the least.
Yeah. Well, so as Paulina and I have established talking in a couple of these interviews so far, Paulina is much younger than I am, and I feel fine about that. I'm not jealous at all. But yeah, so I was a little outside the Powerpuff Girl range. Like, I don't think they were necessarily aiming at me, but they got me anyway. I mean, I just think they're really smart and funny. And Amy, I was going to say that one of the things that I think is really powerful about the Powerpuff Girls is that you can really grow with them. They don't change a lot. I mean, creatively, their stories are always wild and fascinating and interesting, but they do a pretty great job of like the factory settings sort of not changing in it. But I mean that in a good way, in that you can graft all these cool things to them, but their personalities and their primary color palettes and all of that is just so powerful that it just sort of stays strong. And because their stories are so weird and funny, and they have these different layers where they sort of work for kids and adults, I think you can really grow with them as characters in a way that some other things that I loved as a kid I maybe aged out of, because they weren't as sort of flexible and bendy, you know.
They're timeless, I would say.
Yeah. That's Paulina just said everything I was trying to say in one word. So do we have the roles reversed here, and she should be writing the book? Perhaps. Let's not excavate that.
Oh my goodness.
Paulina, when you said you had the toys, did you happen to have the toys that I have here right now? Like I got my bubbles. I bought these were the same toys. Oh my gosh.
I wanted those
too. There were like smaller versions too. I had those as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely had those. Definitely.
My bubbles here. Let me see if I can do a close up. If you can see her scuff mark.
Oh, she's been loved.
Yes.
He was my first one. I eventually got the others, and they all got their little scuffs on them because they were played. They were played with.
They're superheroes. Superheroes have to come with scuffs.
And then
who's your favorite, Amy?
Yeah.
I always said Blossom was my favorite because she was who I wanted to be, but I think the one who I was most likely Bubbles. I mean, my dad would call me Bubbles, so.
I love that you like Blossom so much. We were just talking about that on another cast, that I always feel bad because I never want to pick Blossom, and I feel like nobody ever does, but it's not her fault. It's just like the lead character syndrome that tends to happen, So I'm honestly really happy to hear you say Blossom's your fave. That's great.
I also love Blossom. So
yes, Paulina admitted, but there was also a lot of affection for Buttercup. So it wasn't very clear.
They're equal, honestly. But yes, I adore them.
we love all three, and each one like Bubbles came with like the laboratory set. Yeah. And I just threw out something. Oh my gosh, it's okay. No, like Bubbles Blossom came with the beauty set. Buttercup came with the town set and the mayor set. Like, do you remember the commercials that would be on advertising the toys? Yeah. Like this was on a commercial. I remember very vividly.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think I probably because of our age differences, I don't think I was super keyed into the toys.
Yeah.
It was more like, how can I work on this show? I mean, you may have been already thinking that, you and Savannah, Paulina. Like, do they let children animate this show? We should send a letter.
Tenacious. Yes, that's very real.
Gabriel has asked about did we know they had a DC comic? I'll be honest with you. I know a lot. I've read a lot of the comics, but I haven't paid a lot of attention to who always published them. Like I have so many PDFs now. But yes, I do remember that there was a DC run, right?
Yeah, the DC run's really good. I would say it's like so unmodeled. Like it looks like it fell right out of the television. It's really wonderful.
Maybe that's what I've got. I have 4 PDFs that I was reading a lot, and man, they are great. They are terrific. I was just reading them for research one day, and I was in the living room and I was just laughing like periodically in the quiet house. And my partner in the back office, he was like, "What are you reading? Or what are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm just reading Powerpuff Girl comics." And he was like, "Oh, that's pretty good." So they're just timeless. You said
they're so good. Yeah.
It brings me, one of the questions I had in mind is, because there's been so much Powerpuff media, there's been comics before, there's been punk, there's been the video games. How do you ladies want to make this new series stand out from the other adaptations?
Well, it's really hard. It's like writing for Deadpool. Like they've done everything, they've been everywhere, they've transformed, they've gone to alternate dimension, they've done everything. But I do think that because of the whole factory settings thing that we were talking about, you can sort of take them back to start and then tell a whole new thing. And I feel like they're very flexible in that way. I think to me, what we're doing a little bit, especially, let's talk about issue 1 specifically, is that we're playing with the narrative a little bit and the visuals a little bit. I mean, I've tried to make a really fun idea for them that pushes on sort of the stereotypes of them and then shows maybe it's not this way a little bit. But I do think that the visual narrative elements are the most fun potentially in this first issue. And I brought to each of the first 3, there's an element like that where it pushes on, like, and just as an example of what I'm talking about is like, sometimes if you read a comic and then like within the comic, the girls are drawing their own stuff. And so like you get a different art style, like stuff like that to play with, because I just feel like Powerpuff Girls is so creative in that way that you really got to like sort of bring your A game and try to do some stuff like that, or to make it special, because it's hard to stand out among a lot of really great stories out there. Like sometimes you read something, it's so elegantly simple. You're like, my God, why didn't I think of that? Like, it's so good.
That's really real. Yeah, I feel similarly. I also feel like, it has such a immensely strong visual style that like you can only skew so much while still remaining true to who they are and what it is. So I think, as the artist, I am leaning heavily into trying to stay true to what it is and what I love. But I do think I have at least a spark of, oh, look, that's Paulina. So I think it's a good melding for sure.
And I think that's always like when you get it right as a creator.
Yeah.
I feel like you typically feel like I nailed this because this is recognizable. People know exactly who this is, but I also brought something, you know, in an ideal world, something nobody but you can bring, but that's a pretty high bar. So you brought something special. You brought something different to it that you saw and that you think is additive and takes it in an interesting place. I think that's what you're always striving for.
Yeah.
With things that transfer creator hands all the time, especially that fidelity to the character is important, but also what are you bringing to it? Like, why did you get hired to do this? How are you going to make it, you know, why were you better than the other person to do it? Like, I think about all that stuff when I do it, and, you know, you hope you're successful. It doesn't always work, but mostly.
Yeah, exactly. Nailed it.
Fantastic answer.
Timeless, Paulina.
Kelly, you brought up going through the DC books. Did you also look back at the show? What did you look back at the show for?
I did. To be honest, it's a bit too easy to get just caught up in it, and then you watch Powerpuff Girls for a whole day, and like technically it was work, but you probably need to do some other things. So I was, you know, it's hard when you're pitching. I mean, that's always my problem with characters like Powerpuff Girls or Deadpool or Spider-Man or Batman, like characters who have done everything. I love that I just put Powerpuff Girls next to Batman and Spider-Man and Deadpool. Anyway, they've done so much that pitching can be really hard because you're trying not to duplicate what other people have done. And in Powerpuff Girls in particular, there's so much stuff and it's so creative that it's very easy to be like, oh, someone already did this concept. So a lot of the due diligence is just to try to do that, like find out, make sure you're not repeating things other people have done, which I find quite scary, to be honest, because you're always missing some element. But hopefully you've got a handful of people's eyes on it. In addition to your reading, you've got editors and also the IP owners like checking that stuff. So hopefully between all of you land in a good place. But yeah, I mean, I love the episodes. I just started watching it the other day because I was like, you know, I'm going to do these interviews. I should probably decide on a couple of my favorite episodes. And it was pure joy. Like, it's great stuff. I don't know. I feel like, you know, I feel like there are tons of Powerpuff Girl fans out there, even just sort of closet Powerpuff Girl fans who you wouldn't know on the surface. But there are these people who've like completely missed it. And I'm sure that's a lot of boys, not all boys, of course, but I think a lot of boys, it doesn't, those three lead character girls, like there's just so much boy material out there. They just don't have to watch that if they're not interested in it. And so I feel like there are a lot of dudes who really miss out. I was talking to a few of my colleagues the other day and they just don't have any sense of it. And I was like, honestly, you're missing out. I was like, I'm going to send you a couple PDFs and you should just read them. They're really good. Like, it's super creative, funny stuff. And because we all play in the superhero genre, it's, you know, it knows how to do it.
Yeah.
Look, going through social media, like, and they're like, you see guys who comment like, this was the show boys watch, but they never actually said it out loud. But like, there were plenty of, they said like, oh, no, I did watch the show. I just didn't put it out in the universe. But I think it is a universally appealing show because it is action and comedy, even though the leads are three little 5-year-olds. They're in kindergarten. I think people forget that.
Yeah.
That was another reason it was kind of easy to connect. I'm like, I'm 5 years old and they're 5 years old. And wow, it's amazing.
Pretty amazing 5-year-olds.
Gabriel's question: Can the Powerpuff Girls reference their previous adventures from their previous comic companies? I don't think they can. Because of the different companies thing. I don't think they're allowed, right?
I don't know, but I also I don't know, that just wouldn't be my approach to that. You know, it's not like a big continuity. Like I did talk about that with Nate when he asked me if I wanted to write Powerpuff Girls. He was like, for these first 3 issues, he's like, do you want to write a big sprawling Powerpuff Girls story, or do you want to write done in ones, or do you want to do 3 stories per issue? And I was like, I've never really written a comic exactly like Powerpuff Girls before, with that kind of, like, Jeff is similar in some ways, but Jeff doesn't really have any dialogue, and Powerpuff Girls has tons of dialogue. I mean, let's get Mojo Jojo on the page monologuing, like, that's a lot of it. So I wasn't sure, how much I was going to have to say or not say, and how much was going to need to be action. Like, I hadn't really looked at those formulas for it ever before. And so it took me a while to realize I don't want to tell some sprawling continuity story where they do a bunch of wild things. I want to tell like these short, cool, cartoony adventures, that sort of like, I don't know. So yeah, I went more to just done in one cartoon adventure kind of a vibe. And then like I tried to, like the show. And I tried to make each of them pretty high concept so that we had some interesting narratives and visuals to push against to like keep it interesting, or keep it more interesting maybe. But yeah, I don't know what the rule would be if you were doing a more continuity based take where you want them to reference things. I mean, the IP is always owned by the same person. So I don't know. That's a question for an IP lawyer, I guess.
Yeah.
It's above my pay grade. That's for sure.
I guess. So writing the Powerpuff Girls, do you like of course, I kind of lean back on the show, like how it was structured. Like you hear the narrator very beginning, the city of Townsville. Like, do you like, is the narrator in the book? Like,
of course. Of course. You need the narrator. You need it to end on the day. Once again, the day was saved. And then sometimes it's not the Powerpuff Girls. Like one of my favorite episodes that I was talking about the other day is just another manic Mojo. And it starts with him being upset because he doesn't have enough eggs for breakfast, and it's just ridiculous, and I love it. And that one ends with Mojo Jojo on the iconic ending image background, and it's like the day is saved by Mojo Jojo, and he's like no, I did not. And they're like, yes you did. And he's like, no, I did not. So you need those. I think you want and crave those consistent benchmarks so that when you're subverting them, it makes sense and it lands and it feels right for it to be wrong. You're like, oh, that's not right. That's, a subversion. I love it. Whatever. I don't know.
I can also only imagine like what's it. I assume Mojo's in there. So what's like, I guess who's the best character to write, like in your head? Like, is it one of the girls or is it Mojo? Because again, he has that speech pattern where he talks a certain way.
Mojo is probably my favorite of the villains. I just find him so funny and ridiculous, and I like that he's not really a villain. Like, I mean, he does bad things all the time, but it's like when push comes to shove, he doesn't actually want to hurt anyone or do anything bad. And he's returning baseballs and telling kids not to swim in his moat. Like, he's acting real tough about it, but he's just trying to do his thing. Like, him is genuinely scary to me. Him gets to appear in our first issue. But I do still find him delightful. There's this line in our issue about him, and he's like, oh, I'm peaceful. Look at me, so innocent. Like, it's just it's such a weird vibe. I'm into it. It's so weird. But the girls are super fun to write, especially if you're gonna push against them. Like one of my favorite, and part of the reason Buttercup and Bubbles tend to be my faves are that one of my favorite things is when happy, lovey, everything is hearts Bubble gets angry. It's true chaos when the lovey one is unhappy. So that's always really fun. And conversely, when Buttercup is forced to sort of love things and admit that she has other feelings other than anger and rage and excitement, I love that stuff. So I don't know. Bubbles is pretty adorable to write, but I don't know. Him ranting about how peaceful and innocent he was. I truly have a good time with these villains, man. They're just, the characters are so big. You can do such hilarious, ridiculous things with them, and it all makes sense,
one of my favorite things to ask writers and artists, like how's the collaboration process between the two of you? Because I know it's different for each pairing. So what was it like between the two of you for this series?
Well, I don't want to alarm anyone, but we're a little early to answer that question very well. So I will say that Paulina got a much more complicated script than I usually do, which sounds ridiculous because you're like, wait, it's just Powerpuff Girls. But there were some, it's very hard to convey when you have a visual idea, most of the time I want to get out of the artist's way. But when you actually have like hey, there's a narrative device we want to use here, and now let me try to explain what that could be and how you want to interpret that. So it was a pretty complicated script. I'm sure she looked at it and went, am I sure I wanted to do this project? So she's probably had the challenge, but maybe it would be interesting to hear like how she sort of processes that information and interprets it for herself. I don't know.
I mean, I think the script was, like you said, it was such a vision that you had. And it did take me a few reads to parse the exact vision. But I found my way to the end of it, and I'm really happy with it. And I think everyone will really like it. And it's striking. And yeah, I think I did right by you. So I'm very excited.
I have no doubt about that. I have no doubt about that. That can bring us to the story when the first thing I always ask Nate or any editor who comes to me and wants me to do something, I'm like, you know what I'm going to ask? Who is going to be the artist? Can we be sure we've got the right artist? I don't want to do something if we can't get the right artist. And that's about a lot of things. That's about protecting me so that I can get nominated for Eisners. I can't get nominated for Eisners if I don't have brilliant people helping me. I can't do that. It's a team effort, man. So it's about protecting me. It's about trying to make the best book. It's about trying to work with the coolest artists. It's about a lot of things. So that's always my first thing. And when I said it to Nate, I was like, I want to be sure we're going to have the right people. And he's like, okay, like, let's think about it. He's like, but I was thinking about Paulina Ganucheau. And I was like, oh, we're fine. I was like, sold. I was like, I'm in. I was like, if that's what we're talking about, I'm in. So it's not even a question. I have no doubt. My only fear was I knew I was writing a super specific script, which is not usually my thing. And this is Paulina and I really the first script we've ever worked on together. So you hate sending a new artist that you really like something where it's like, hey, guess what? I've on like half of these pages, I've been very specific about how many panels you must use. Like that's not how you want. That's not the impression you want. Fortunately, Paulina and I know each other a little bit. So I figured if she was freaked out, she could reach out to me. I was also very clear with Nate when I sent in the script. And I don't know if the final that you got had these notes still in there, but there were times where I put notes directly in the script where I'm like, Nate, I have this great idea. I think it's going to be this cool idea that's about pulling the girls apart and then letting them come back together. I was like, but if Paulina hates it, we don't have to do it. There are other ways to do this. So I always want it to be a collaboration, even when I have a big idea and I'm being a nightmare. I'm super excited and glad that Paulina was into it, but you always got to give your artist an out. Nobody's going to be having a good time if she's miserable, or doesn't get it or doesn't feel like it's a good idea, so.
For the record, I love it. Okay.
Yay!
And the notes were still in there, and I loved them.
Good. Well, I'm glad. I mean, that's like, I don't ever want to send like some perfect script, like a perfect script that isn't full of like notes and references and all sorts of, hey, do you guys think this is crazy? I can't remember if I was eating edibles when I wrote this panel, but it seems interesting to me. Like you want it to be like that conversation, especially because we're all just working like from our emails at home. You want to make it a conversation as much as you can. And I think that's how you get like the coolest books out of it,
Absolutely. That's how comics are made. It is a conversation.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. Again, congrats on the Eisners. They're the most nominated artists this year, correct?
That's so fucking weird, man. Oh, sorry. I'm probably not supposed to cuss on a Powerpuff Girls stream. I'm sorry. Sorry, children and adults who are watching.
You guys know what their original name was, right?
Yes. I do.
Don't worry about it. We won't say it on here, but if anyone knows, if anyone knows,
Yeah.
But again, big congratulations on the Eisners. From what I understand, it's basically the Oscars for comic books, right?
It is. That's what they say. That's what they say. It's pretty cool. But I mean, I think listen, I'm delighted. I am super over the moon. So it's no swing on Eisner's, but the fact that we have to say it's the Oscars of comics tells you about our little niche level of fame and keeps you humble. But yes, I am not very humble this week. I love my books. I made them with my whole heart with the most incredible collaborators to like get to get nods for The Cult and Black Cloak, which are creator owned books that I made with Meredith McLaren and Madia. It's so exciting, but then to also get a nod for It's Jeff, which is like one of the many reasons I took on Powerpuff Girls, is because I want more kids, comics for all ages that can transition between kids and adults. And Jeff does that really well. I think Powerpuff Girls at their best do that really well. And then Birds of Prey, which is just a pure joy, especially with Leonardo Romero and Jordi Belair on it. It's incredible.
Like one of the best looking books.
So it's incredible. Like when I was putting that book together, you're like, this seems crazy. Am I crazy? And then Leo's pages start coming in and you go, I'm not crazy. He's a genius and we're going to be fine. Like, it's so good.
Yeah. And then Jordi on top. And it's just like,
incredible. When she started coming in with that sort of pulp style, like off register coloring. Oh man, so I was so worried DC was going to say no, and they just let us go, and it was a great experience. It's great when publishers can do that.
Awesome. Both of you having incredible resumes, like with all this, with different people you've collaborated with and the characters that you've worked on. I mean, Kelly, you've got Black Widow. Yeah, like you said, Birds of Prey, and I'm a big fan of your Captain Marvel run.
Oh, thanks.
And you've done so many. And then Paulina, you've done your own, with Wonder Woman, and with Dynamite, you've done work on Vampirella and Red Sonja. I guess there's two parts to this. Like, do you have a favorite? And then, like, what's the cool thing about like giving your part to all these different heroes, like writing your story for this hero and for that hero? What's it like?
I think it's, for me, it goes back to that thing we were talking about, like you try to make a character the way. Oh, my cat's throwing up. I hope that'll be on the live stream. That's great.
I can't hear anything.
Good. I'm very glad. I'll try to talk right over this. Wow, that's a terrible place to do that too. Great. So I think, I'm always looking for that perfect line between making sure the character feels authentic and also what can I bring to it? Like, why am I here? Let's not just be someone who's regurgitating stuff that's already come. Like, let's add to it. Let's do something interesting. So I think there's that, but beyond that, I certainly talk about things that are important to me. Like, those things end up getting woven in, but it tends to be more of like an emotional thing for me. Like, I tend to be motivated by character more than plot. So I just sort of fall in love with characters and then I just want to play with them, But I would be interested in I'm not trying to overtake your question, Amy, but I think maybe part of that question goes with a question I wanted to ask Paulina, which is, how much does she feel like Powerpuff Girls influenced her aesthetic? And does she think it happened to like a lot of young women like her who are artists now? Because I feel like it did affect. It's like some of the color palettes I see and the approaches and like really iconic stuff, but like rounded forms and things. I mean, I'm out of pocket a little bit. That's not my specialty, but do you feel like it influenced you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Especially since I've been rewatching it lately. it's like that. I feel like that more often than not shows me like, oh, I can see myself in this. It's like when I watch things that I fully absorbed as a child that now come out of me creatively. So 100% Powerpuff Girls. And also I think Powerpuff Girls hit at the same time that like anime was getting big.
Yes.
I feel like it's like with that and Powerpuff Girls and just like smashing it all together, you get a lot of creatives my age and kind of what they love and kind of what they do or are best at.
Yeah.
So I absolutely agree. Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was something I thought about bringing up too, because Craig McCracken himself said that was what he was inspired by. A lot of the newest anime that was coming out, and and how specifically like the older stuff, like a lot of he grew up with the Hanna-Barbera and Speed Racer, like that was what he grew up on, what heavily influenced. Do you like what else do you ladies think you see the Powerpuff influence in, whether it's cartoons or writing? What do you think has been touched by what do you think the Powerpuff Girls helped pave the way through?
Probably way more than we could even say. It was huge. Like it was absolutely massive. And I would say the reversal of it, it's like it had inspo in the Japanese market. Like they made an anime. They made a Powerpuff Girls. Human girls. Like that says it all. That it kind of is like this feedback loop.
Feedback loop. That was what I was gonna say. And there is a weird feedback loop that you'd think could be bad, but I think in Powerpuff Girls it's mostly worked to its advantage with like really interesting sort of places it went. I mentioned on another cast, one of the things we got, I'm sure Paulina got either the same thing or even more of it, but you know, there's like a Bible you can get a couple Bibles and it's full of this stuff, and a lot of it's really useful to, you know, references and locations and things you can and can't do, and here's on model drawings of all these things. But there's also less useful to us, but I found completely interesting. If you paging through it, they're like hundreds of pages long. There's like, here they are branded with a floral motif, and like it was clearly for some kind of advertising campaign or some product or whatever. And like here they are with Hawaii surf vibes and like all these different things, and it just makes you feel like there's just like a whole world of Powerpuff Girls, and yet it remains like iconic and instantly recognizable on its own. And I don't know, I think it's kind of genius. It goes back to all that world building and original design they did is all so strong. And I think you do see tons of things influence. I mean, you can see lots of manga influence in the Powerpuff Girls, but you can also just see like Townsville. If I was going to say Townsville and the Townsville dynamic feels like anything, it feels like a Godzilla movie, right? Like even when they don't go big, the town is always getting destroyed, but it's always rebuilt. It's sort of like iconic in its forms and shapes. So yeah, I don't know, man. I just think it's really, I mean, Paulina said it best, timeless. We should have just ended the cast then. Like it just bends and it's flexible in the best ways, you know?
Yeah, it's a great show.
It's a fantastic show.
So I said Mojo Jojo. You guys didn't say your favorite villains.
Him. And I like Sedusa.
Oh yeah, Sedusa's fun. Sedusa's super fun. That design
I love her.
So great. Yeah.
I'd probably stick with Mojo because growing up, he was the funniest. He was also my dad's favorite. He had another little stuffed Mojo he would keep around, and it was also a nice thing that we could watch that kids could watch with their parents, and the parents could get a kick out of it because especially when they had certain episodes that had little jokes for the parents.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, it's obviously not as successful as something like Simpsons, which is like the most successful version of this you can do. But I do think that Powerpuff Girls, much more than most animated shows, quote unquote, for kids, Powerpuff Girls does a really good job of operating on two levels, I think, where all the colors and the styling is all super geared towards kids. Although I have to say, going with UPA, I think that's a very grown up look. I know it's stupid to say that considering it's like all the cartoons and stuff with that overpaint and the sort of mid-century modern vibes and all the angular stuff. Like you see it in all the Looney Tunes stuff as well. So it doesn't feel very adult, but there is a sort of mid-century modern adultness to the way that UPA stuff looks. So that plus everything else, I think it does end up working for people who give it a chance on that secondary adult level. Most episodes in comics that I have read, it has something at least to appeal to an older reader at the same time that it's unabashedly for kids. It's a listen, and that's a tricky balance. That's a razor's edge to get that right. You're not always going to nail that even when you're trying, but I do try to keep that in mind because I just really think Powerpuff Girls are for everyone. They're not just for kids, nor are they for adults, you know? Someone likes Medusa.
This is great. I have no shame for my love of Medusa.
Would you say that's the best thing about the Powerpuff Girls is that they can really appeal to anybody? Like,
I think so.
Yeah.
They're super relatable. The first question everyone asks you is, who's your favorite Powerpuff Girl? So that's such a weird, crazy question because it first of all assumes everyone knows all three of them well enough that they instantly have an answer. And let me tell you what, I've never known somebody who was familiar with them who couldn't immediately answer that question. Like, it's just, it makes you realize how much they've like filtered into your brain, you know?
And like anytime these three colors are together, I'm like, oh, there's the girl. Like
I was making fun of Paulina the other day because she had a similar, like she had this blanket, but it was done. Yeah, see, look, the pink, blue, and green. I was like, you're even accidentally like making your own background.
Not on purpose.
But yeah, there's something like iconic and recognizable about that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know how many, like, I don't have a little thing there right next to me that I don't know how many people are watching this live right now, but if anyone did have a question for Kelly or Paulina, please feel free to ask now. Because what else did I want to ask? Okay. What, besides you ever have that feeling where you know the question in your head and then it can't come out correctly?
Yeah,
too many times.
Brain fart moments. I apologize.
My entire life.
Yeah, I mean, none of us are like the extra. Well, maybe Amy, but I don't know. Well, I've just met Amy 2 weeks ago, but most creators, it's a little weird that we're all over podcasts and things because most of us are introverts who. I mean, my boyfriend told me a story the other day and I was like, oh, that's why I don't leave the house anymore. Great story. So, you know, we're all just doing our best out here.
Yep. It's really real.
I worked to get to being able to talk in front of a camera and being live. I was never.
Well, you're doing great.
You're doing fantastic.
Especially as the person who is not on camera. I think you're a star.
You're very kind. Thank you.
What's the on these? Are these books or games on that like second level here that you've got?
They're all old books. Like again, they're kids books. They're all
they're so cute.
Yeah, the scholastic kids books, and they're all based on, like these three are based on episodes, and this one isn't an actual episode, but I know this one was eventually an episode.
Oh wow, that's fun.
And the writer on this was one of the writers on the show. Amy Keating Rogers was on.
That's fun.
The show.
I love that.
The show. And I before we went live, I told you guys like I ordered this from GalaxyCon, so I'll show it to the audience right now if you can see.
Oh
wow! Signed by, you said the voice actors, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so cool.
Catherine Cavadini and E.G. Daly. So
I want to be a fly in the room when Craig and whoever is designing those characters and he's like, no, the eyes are this big. I want to know what people were like. That's insane, Craig. No, it can't be done. You dial it back. And he's like, no, this is the way. I want to know. I want to be a fly on that wall. And honestly, whoever said they should be that big, they won because it's amazing. This giant, ridiculous eyes that should not work. No fingers, no toes. It's perfect. This is the perfect simplified design. I love it. I love it.
And It makes it easier to draw. Okay, if it's just the head.
I mean, it is definitely the character I would design if I had to draw a comic, because no hand, no fingers. Honestly, I sort of wish some people would embrace that a simplified design like that. In some, there are ads all the time for. Maybe it's Instacart is the actual design, and it's like all the way that whole world of Instacart is designed. It's sort of like it's probably 3D, like digital, but it looks more like stop motion, right? It's designed to look like stop motion, so it all has a lot of depth to it, and these chunky figures, and the world is so cool. But whenever they show the people with their hands, they're like a stub, sort of like the Powerpuff Girls. And then they have the creepiest 4 or 5 fingers coming off of it you've ever seen. And every time they show it, I'm like, God, don't show me these mutated cartoon hands. They're so horrifying. Like the hands wouldn't even work. Like the fingers are so small and the palm is so stubby. They should just go with no fingers. Just make it happen.
Do Powerpuff Girl style.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Dante. Thanks so much. Big Barda's the best. Oh man, I wish we could put Big Barda in a Powerpuff Girls. I mean, the crossover of my dreams. Big Barda and the Powerpuff Girls. Maybe I have to draw that.
Do it.
You know what? I've got some Birds of Prey sketch covers. Maybe I'll do it. That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
There you go.
I do think Big Barda and Buttercup would be quite a fit.
They would be friends.
Yeah. Maybe I do Powerpuff Girls hanging off all those tiers of her helmet. That would be fun.
That would be cute.
Yeah. All right. I'm into this. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Well, we said that Craig McCracken, we said what he was inspired by. So take me back a little bit. What inspired you ladies? Like, Paulina, what got you into art? Kelly, what got you into writing? What was the spark?
What was I mean, I always wanted to be a writer, pretty much going back to my first memories. I wanted to be a writer, and I didn't just want to be a writer because, like, when I was about 6, I was writing these stories about these mermaid sisters. And at one point I wrote it all out and I made it into a little book with a construction paper cover. And then I cut out the construction paper to do like a drawing of the girl inside. So I was like making a book with a die cut cover when I was 6, because I didn't just want to write something. I wanted to make other people read it. I wanted other people to tell me it was good. So narcissist right out of the gate. I was just really always interested in writing and publishing. And I did know about comics because of Archie's, but that was like my only exposure to them. And so I knew how to read them and I loved them. I was sort of obsessed with them. But it wasn't until I was a teenager that I discovered X-Men and superhero comics, and like the whole world of comics sort of opened up for me. So I think comics were what inspired me to do comics. I just loved them. I sometimes wanted to write for TV or film or be an animator. I went to art school. I definitely wanted to be an artist. Who doesn't want to be an artist? But I just came to see that the work level that was going to be required for me to be able to do it, honestly, to do it at a level I would have been happy with, I don't know that I ever could have achieved it. I have very high expectations for everyone around me. I just knew I was better served as a writer. But I'll always dream of being an artist. It's like the coolest fucking thing ever.
You could still do it. I think anybody can be an artist.
I'm gonna send you a sketch, Paulina, and then you'll be like, you're on the right path already, Kelly. Just stay where you are.
Art's for everybody, Kelly. Everybody.
What about you, Paulina? What inspired you for comics?
I think I was like 8 years old when I got my first like manga, and that was like the thing that blew up my brain. Like I had always been reading comics. Like I read like the Mario floppies that were coming out. I don't remember who did them, but they were. My brother had like a bin of them under his bed, and he had like Spawn and stuff. I remember reading that, like sneaking in his room and reading that. So yeah, Spawn and Mario. But I was amazing. And he bought me a manga. Nobody knows it. It's called Oh My Goddess. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's old. It's not super popular. Not a lot of people know it. But yeah, that was like the catalyst. And
That's
then
funny.
from there, oh God, it was like anime in general and Powerpuff Girls. Honestly, it was like right around that same age when everything kind of just like spiraled out. And my sister also wanted to be an artist, so we would like literally make comics together. We would buy sketchbooks and like draw like paneled comics in them, and like we would also like collaborate where she would draw a page and then I would draw a page. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was super fun, and she's a professional now too. Savannah.
How far apart are you guys? You and Savannah?
3 years.
Who can I ask? Who's older?
Me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Baby sister.
Yes.
You guys are both so talented, and I love that I can sort of see each of you in your work. Like there are similarities, but it's very, very different still.
It is. Yeah.
Do you guys is that deliberate, or is it just not? It's just organically what's happened. You didn't ever like, I want to push away or she wants to push away because we want to make sure we're distinct. I sort of love that. Just like the organic process, like that you guys would naturally, from who you are and from your influence, you'd naturally have these overlapping things, but you'd also like really be your own artist. I love it.
It's really cool. Yeah. And I'm honored to have a sister as talented and cool as she is. So like,
honestly, it's very fun to have like your best friend and your sister in the industry with you, and for you guys to both have. I'm so competitive. I am worried that I would be not a good look on me, but I hope I would just love it. I want to believe I would love it.
You would love it.
I do sometimes wish my brother was in it. He's creatively inclined, but he sort of took a different path. But I sometimes wish he'd come along.
Pull him in.
Maybe we'll see. I've seen how things go over here.
Yeah. Oh God, that's true. It is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, I mean, he has a 401k and a health insurance. Why would we mess with that?
No,
leave him where he is, right?
Stay over there. Stay over there. Tell him to stay.
It's a high price sometimes.
It is. You gotta be passionate to work in comics for sure.
Yes.
Are there any other writers and artists out there who you ladies like also look like whose project are you excited to hear about next? Like who are you fans of?
It's a good question.
I have a million.
Yeah. I'm gonna just say everyone I've worked with, certainly. They're all so incredibly talented. I think Pepe Larraz, I think for like big two, for like big bombastic, the biggest book in the world, he can't be beat right now. He's incredible. But I would also say, Javier Pina has been doing some Birds of Prey for me. He did some Captain Marvel for me. He and I worked on Star together. Like, I just think he's this incredibly beautiful artist who can draw. I mean, a half-naked Big Barda is my current phone screensaver because it's just like so beautiful. I just love it. And I love that he can do women with a lot of different varied body types, but they're like powerful and sexy at the same time. And like, it feels really great. I think Leonardo De Felici did a book called Chroma last year. That's one of my favorite things I've read in a long time. I mean, talk about a young writer artist just blowing me away, man. So good. I think, Matt Rosenberg is one of my favorite writers. What's the Furthest Place from Here? 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank. I think he's doing incredible stuff. He's also doing like completely wild, like DC versus vampire stuff. Like, it's so fun, right? What about you, Paulina?
Oh my God. I could go forever, but Chris Samney, he's like one of my favorite people on the planet. Like,
so good. Did you see the Barda he did yesterday?
Yes, I did.
I was like, can we please get this on a cover? Just this sketch. That's all I need. It's
I know.
So good.
He's incredible and truly one of the nicest people I've ever met at the scene.
Yeah. So no ego, like just
totally
so good.
I know. Becky Cloonan, like I'm obsessed with her. Like,
so excited to see her Eisner noms the other day, especially for the Tula, for her book.
Yes,
Tula, like so cool.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So amazing.
Yeah. Sexy as hell.
Yeah. Oh my God. So maybe we don't talk about that on Powerpuff.
Yeah, right? On Powerpuff Girls chat.
Yeah. But yeah, Leo Romero, my God. Like, ugh. Talk about a dream team. You and him, like straight up two of my favorite people in the whole world.
He's a dream. I was a little upset to see, you know, he tweeted yesterday about the Eisner nom and that, you know, last year had been such a hard year. And I honestly felt really bad because I think that's another one of Leo's skills that unfortunately is sort of hurtful to him.
Yeah.
Is that he never complains about it. Like, you would never know he's having a hard time. Like, he's he meets all his deadlines. He does everything you could want and more. He never is complaining. He's never giving excuses. He's like the perfect like, when I think of what a shitty writer I am to deal with right now compared to how great Leo is to deal with. And I had a really hard year last year too, but I feel like everyone fucking knew it because I never shut up about it. Oh my God, I cussed again. I'm sorry. I feel like everyone knew I had a bad year. It was hard. I was really in it. You know, I got hit with this tax bill. Making creator-owned comics is very stressful. Yes. Was like sort of not prepared for how all of that went. It was crazy. And I feel like everyone knew it, but I feel like nobody would know Leo had a hard year. I was working with him closely for most of that year and I had no idea. And I feel like that happens to artists a lot in this industry. To be the best, both in your work product and in people dealing with you, you just tend to put your head down and do the work. But I do have to say, it's not crazy to let people know it's too much. Like, you got to talk to your people because I don't want to know after the fact that Leo was really struggling. And, you know, listen, I would also like people to sort of recognize, because I've seen a lot of people going, when will Leo be back on this book? And they're all like being grouchy about it. And I'm like, Eisner winning level material like this, it takes a toll and you can't just crank it out every month indefinitely. So like, if you guys want this kind of material, there needs to be a little like understanding of the lengths people go to get this work done, and that it's not a machine that can just crank it out. So we need to be a little more cognizant of that in the industry. And I throw that at myself too, because I was working with Leo and didn't know we were maybe pushing him too hard.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be more careful about that in the future. And I think everyone should be, like, especially as AI comes in and tries to like take all this over. It's more important than ever to be like listening to each other and taking care of each other.
Support living artists.
Yes. keep them, help keep them alive.
Please. Also, I think people don't realize sometimes the gargantuan task that is drawing a comic.
Oh my God.
It's like, you know, you don't think about it, but it's like a blank piece of paper, and then you have to draw like up to 9 single illustrations as quickly as you can, and then do that 22 times for each single issue.
And while you're doing it, be an incredible storyteller. Interpret this blueprint. Know that other people are going to come in after you and add to it, and like, you hope that's going to be a great thing, but it's a question mark. It's such an incredible thing. I think anyone who makes comics, you can see right away like that it's just this magical experience, and it's sort of crazy that it even comes together. And you never would stay in this industry unless you love it. Like, you get addicted to that creation for sure.
I always call it a blessing and a curse, because it's like, I can't imagine doing anything else, but my God, is it hard some days. But just like, I really love it at the same time. So it's pure passion, all comics, and I have respect for everyone. And I can't stand when fans trash artists or be like, why are they off this book? And I always stick up for them. It's like, you don't even know.
It's really
it's like,
it's really hard. It's also a very small industry, so
it is
throwing anyone under the bus. You're talking about someone's friend.
I know,
like, and someone's colleague. Like, we all know each other, almost all of us. Like, and even if I don't know person X or Y or Z, I know a guy who knows them. And one time we did this thing online or whatever. Like, there's still connections there. Like, even when it's a little removed. So it's just hard. It's hard.
Yeah, the degrees of separation are like 0. It's like
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
there's none.
just despite the fact that most of us have never been in the same room together. It's
Yeah.
such a weird dichotomy.
Strange.
Yeah.
Yep.
But grateful. Like, again, I don't think either of us wants to seem like we're complaining. Like, we chose
No,
this.
no.
We chose this, and I live in
Yeah.
fear that AI will try to take this job for me or someone else will. It's a great job, but like any great job, it comes with some downside. Anything. Like, nothing in life is free, right? You've got to pay a price.
Yeah.
So the price you pay for doing this incredible thing is you don't get health insurance, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, if you like creators, go support them because they need, I promise you they need it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That whole conversation, that was fantastic. I love this is the feeling I like when we can just talk honestly about, again, whether it's what we like and what we support and what we love to do. That was so awesome. That was so awesome.
Thanks.
I know we're coming in on an hour now, but I just have 2 tiny last questions, if that's okay with the both of you.
Yeah.
I guess, what are you excited for people to see about this new series, to read about this new series? What are you most excited for people to see about?
I mean, I think the thing I'm most excited about in these first 3 issues are the weird visual things that is sort of the alchemy of me and Paulina on this first one. Like, that if people get that, and if they can see like how smart it is, like between the 2 of us, and I don't mean like, oh, we're smart. I just mean there's a cleverness within the story. Yeah, exactly. That's the vibe. I'm doing that. You can't see me, but I'm doing that with my hair for sure. I don't mean that we're super clever. I just mean that the story has some, if you're looking for it, if you're not just paging through it as fast as you can, if you're really absorbing it, I think there's some interesting devices in there. And I did things like that in each of the first 3 issues. So other than just the joy of Powerpuff Girls, which is really what I hope people come from, that's the thing that I'm sort of excited, not just between Paulina and I, to see if it works and how we're able to make it work, but how people respond to it, and if they get it, and if they like clock it, or if they're just like, yeah, that was a fun Powerpuff Girls story. Like, because not everybody will get what we're trying to do there visually, right? I mean, I haven't seen all of it yet, so maybe Paulina is such a genius, it would be impossible for nobody to not get it. But I do feel like, I just feel like that kind of a narrative tricks, those kind of tricks, not everybody's going to get it, but I'm okay with that. It's sort of a second level that's there for people who are really engaged with it, you know?
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. But I mean, alone, like you said, just Powerpuff Girls entering the zeitgeist again via comics is very exciting. And I feel like honored to be a part of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That alone is good for me. Yeah, I'm pumped. As a super fan, it's just such an honor.
It's very cool when people tell you that you get to write something you really love genuinely before. Yeah, it's cool.
Okie dokie. Final question, and this might be the most important one for me personally. So we gotta roll off the favorite episodes.
Oh,
the best Powerpuff episodes. So if possible.
I do think one of my favorites is just another Manic Mojo that starts with him being upset. It's from season 1. It's like, it establishes that his base is in like Central Park of Townsville and has a moat around it. It's wild. It makes no sense. It's the greatest. He mostly is upset in that episode because the Powerpuff Girls, a baseball goes through his window and is in his laboratory, and he's trying to decide how to destroy them while he pretends to look for the baseball. it's absurd. And you know what? Watching it back, it reminded me a little bit. Do you guys remember from years back now, 8 years maybe, that Faith Erin Hicks Wolverine comic that went around that everyone loves so much? It was just a fan comic she made that was about him not having enough eggs for breakfast. And so he went off to the store and he got hit by a bunch of ninjas in the dairy aisle. It was like exactly the Wolverine comic I wanted to read.
That's
and
funny.
That Mojo Jojo, I don't know if she had seen that or was inspired by it, but it instantly made me think of that Wolverine comic, and that brought me so much joy. The other episode, or the other short on that episode with Manic Mojo, is actually another really good episode. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it's the mime episode where the color gets drained from the clown and he becomes a mime. And that would be a great example. Like, I just love the story in that Mojo Jojo because it's very atypical. Like, there's nothing really to fight. But the mime story is like a great example of Powerpuff Girls creativity, you know, being just off the charts, like how they apply the color. I mean, Bubbles, that's another reason. That's a great example of a Bubbles reaction. She loses her mind when everything loses color. She starts coloring everything. And then they use that visual trick where it actually looks like crayon, just scribbled over things instead of looking like real colors. It's fucking great. Shoot, I did it again. I'm so sorry.
That's the episode with the song too, right at the end.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Blah, 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 blah. Sorry, I can sing every song from Powerpuff. I love that episode too. Yeah, it's great. I have too many favorites. Too many. Yeah, top 3. I really love the one where Bubbles has to be hardcore.
Yes.
Yes. That's one of mine. Oh my god.
Love that episode. Yeah, so good. The first Rowdy Rough Boys episode.
Yeah. Oh, great one.
Amazing.
I mean, when they introduce that concept, you're like, my mind is blown. Puppy dog tails, like, whoa. How did I not see it coming? That to me is a perfect example of, you know, as a writer, and maybe artists always feel this way too, I don't know. But as a writer, when you're planning the story, you're always like, it would be great if I can get everyone to be surprised on the last page and then go, I can't believe I didn't see it coming. Like, because we put all the clues there. Like, you are going for that every time. And I feel like that's,
Yeah. It's so it's so right there. And when they do it, it's just like, yes, I don't know.
You're like, I can't believe I didn't know they were going to do that. It's
it's
perfect.
So good. And I love the one where everybody turns into dogs. I don't know. I just
with the Mojo Jojo one. Oh, was that the one where he's the dog at the end?
He's the dog at the very end, and they keep him at the end. And they're just like, we have pet Mojo dogs now, and that's how the episode ends. It's like amazing.
I mean, you said the one with their dogs, and the image of them as dogs just popped into my head. Like
so cute.
I couldn't even control it. That's amazing.
And then there's the sequel episode that goes with it because he does it all again, and they're like, "Why are you doing this again?" He's
yes.
Like, I know how to fix it this time.
That's
awesome. And he replays
so
it, the dog, the biting, the drop. We're gonna go again. Like, okay, we get
amazing. So creative.
The button again. Fun again.
Also,
every Mojo one great.
Boogie Frights. Dante Cook said Boogie Frights. That episode is so good.
Yes.
Blame it all the boogie or whatever. And they're all going under the disco ball. It's just amazing.
You know, that blame it on the boogie reminds me of that something about the vibe of that episode reminds me of that Adventure Time episode where the bears are inside the guy.
Oh,
do you know? And they're the rave bears. Yes.
Anyway. That's a great episode too. But that's
different show. Also great.
Great episode. Yes, absolutely.
So, Amy, what about you? Did you want to say?
Yeah.
The ones I can roll off in my head again. All the Mojo ones are great, especially we learned his origin. The one where he babysits, I love that one. That one's hysterical. The one where Bubbles gets hit on the head and she thinks she's Mojo Jojo.
Yes.
Also hysterical.
That's a great one.
I want to give a shout out to the Beatles episode because that was one. I remember very clearly when that preview came on the TV before it premiered. Dad looks at the TV. He's like, I have to watch that one. I'm like, why? He's like, it's the Beatles. Like, my favorite band. I have to watch that episode with you. Tell me when it's on.
That's great.
That's another example of putting one in there for the adults. And there's so many great ones. Miss Vellum and Sedusa have a fight in one of them.
Yes.
That was great. There's so many. There's so many great ones. But the ones I mentioned, I go to. And I guess the last one I'll bring up is The Collector.
Oh yeah,
Lenny Baxter, and obviously.
Oh right.
You know,
yes.
we have in common.
That's good. That's good.
But they're my childhood. They are joy. They are happiness, and they're the reminder that girls can be anything they want to be, whether it's the brain or a little bit more cutesy or a little bit more tough. Like you can be so many things at once.
Yeah.
Be so many things at once.
I know that things were starting to change when Powerpuff Girls first came out. Like there were a lot more things geared specifically towards girls or with more girls in the main cast or whatever. But for a long time when I was a kid, as we've established, I'm old and decrepit compared to Paulina. When I was a kid, like a lot of times it was just like a token girl. And it was like, we're rolling the dice. I mean, that's how comics are. I mean, for a long time, the Avengers felt like that too. Like, oh, there's one girl on this. Hope you like her because that's your identifying character, the character you're going to connect to. And that was one of the really powerful things about Powerpuff Girls. I remember feeling like, oh, this is just unabashedly about girls being awesome. And anyone can watch that who wants to, but probably there are going to be girls who've been waiting for this all this time, who were ready to be the leaders and not the token girl,
Yeah.
Will Kelly finally show us Ms. Bellum's face? Didn't they do it? I thought
you can see like half of her face, and like you can see like her eye and her mouth. So yeah, I guess yes.
Because never a full on close up
face, but yeah, she has like hair over her eyes. She's beautiful, of course. But yeah. Also, thank you.
And the other best character in the series.
Yes, another castle. So long ago I made that comic. I'm so glad that your daughter likes it.
Aww.
It's always hard when that's the comment. I love it the most, but then I'm like, oh yeah, since I've been able to get back to that child has now outgrown it. It's always a little sad. I feel that way about Mega Princess, which is our book we did at Boom.
Yeah.
And like kids who maybe loved that are like too old for the second volume. Yeah, like I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why you got to make them like Powerpuff Girls and The Simpsons with 2 levels. There you go. I think that's it. That's it, Amy. Timeless.
Timeless. Obviously, because I didn't outgrow it, and I'm sure there's other people who never outgrew it either, because they're timeless.
Who outgrows joy?
Nobody. Fools.
That's fools. Good answer. So this has been one of my favorite things I got to do this job yet.
Yay.
As soon as I heard we were doing Powerpuff Girls, I was like,
I'm all over that.
All over it. Nick, I'll do whatever. I'll talk to everybody. I'll do whatever you need me to do.
So one woman show over there.
But it really means a lot that both of you came to talk today. Thank you so much. Thanks for contributing to the Powerpuff Girls. Thanks for being awesome. Thanks for everything. Thank you for today.
Thank you for having us. It's
I hope you love it.
Yeah, I hope everyone loves it because we love them.
Yeah, for sure.
Can we do a follow-up after the book comes out? Is that okay?
Yeah,
we'll talk about
it. Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I would love that.
So thank you again, ladies. Thank you to everyone who watched today, and check out the Powerpuff Girls this summer when it comes out.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Geez, like 2 months from now. So yeah, go check it out. Go watch the show. Go check out the Powerpuff Girls. So, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, fans. Bye.
Bye, fans.